Hey, good evening, everybody. All right, I'm so excited about tonight and for the next bunch of nights. Okay, what we decided to do was not talk politics. Okay, a lot of my liberal friends, all two of them, got mad at me. No, seriously, uh, my expertise is investigation. So we're going to talk about investigation. And I've done a lot of high-profile cases, and we're going to talk about those. And I have one case in particular that's more recent about the murders in Idaho. Now, before I get into those, I have to let you know my background. If you don't already know, I was a government investigator. I worked for the state of New York. First, I was a gambling investigator. Then I got transferred to OPD, Office of Professional Discipline, where we investigated doctors, accountants, psychologists, all the profession except lawyers. Lawyers do their own stuff. What we did was I was in the medical unit. I did mostly medicine, chiropractic, and psychology. And then the medical was transferred to the health department where I got transferred. It was a lateral transfer, but I became the supervising senior investigator. And because of that, hey, hi Larry, how are you? Because of that, I became a certified forensic examiner with the American Association of Forensic Examiners. I can't do autopsies, but I can review them and talk about them. Now, DNA is very important. Nowadays, when you watch TV, all these detective shows, they're always checking the DNA. Now, in 1986, I think it was, 85, I gave a lecture to the Detective Association, and one of my co-lecturers was Dr. Robert Shaler. Dr. Robert Shaler is a PhD in hematology, blood samples, and he told us about DNA, and I was like, wow, I never heard of that. Nobody heard about it. And as you can see, it progressed to where it's a vital instrument for law enforcement. But you can't only rely on DNA. There's other factors too. Now, recently, Dr. Michael Bodden, who I worked with, when I worked for the medical board, he was the chief pathologist for the state of New York. And though I didn't work directly for him, I worked sort of independent with him. I kind of worked with him. And he said the other day, a couple times on Fox TV, and I'm sure he was on other shows too, because he is an expert in the field, that there's a lot of DNA there because this man killed 4 people, bloody. He used a knife. There was blood all over the place. And Dr. Biden said that there's probably a trace of his DNA somewhere in there. And apparently there was. But what I want to talk about is how I got involved with a DNA case, which is in one of my books. And Anthony's going to show you my books later. But right now, I'm talking about, I got hired by a woman who claimed that her father was Elton John. Why? Her mother was a groupie. I'll say she was a groupie. She had sex with Rod Stewart, all the Rolling Stones. I mean, she was hot. I mean, muy caliente, she was hot. So my client did the math and said, wait a minute, I was born 9 months after an Elton John concert. So she figured he's her father. When she asked the mother said, I'm not telling you. I'm not, no. Apparently she had sex with a lot of people. Okay. So she hired me to prove that Elton John is her father. Okay. So what do? I need his DNA. He was on tour in the United States, and every state that he was in, I called one of my detective associates and said, do me a favor, go to his hotel or wherever he's staying and see if you can get the garbage. If you can get a piece of a cup, a bottle, a paper, plastic, anything, get it to me, and then we can check the DNA. We couldn't get it. I read an article in a newspaper, no, in a magazine, where Elton John had a brother, an older brother, who never talked to him, like a recluse. And he lived in northern, he was in northern England. And I called one of my associates in England from the British American Association, and Joe Beering. And I I asked him, I said, do me a favor. See if you can get a bottle or a glass from this guy. So he went to the town where he lived. And the guy is a recluse. He doesn't go out. He doesn't go drinking. But his son likes to go to the pub. So my guy went to the pub, got friendly with the guy, bought him a drink. And when he wasn't looking, he took the glass. Hey, Mike, how are you, baby? And he took the glass, obviously threw out the content, and sent it to me by DHL courier. So I got the glass. I contacted a DNA lab that I use in Virginia. And I got a letter of authority from my client, because you need, when you check in the DNA, you need proof from somebody. You need permission from someone. And she gave me permission to check the DNA, and we did. And we were looking for the mitochondrial DNA. What the mitochondrial DNA is, on a DNA, if you ever see a DNA chart, it's very long and has all these little coils in there. The bottom part is consistent with family members. For example, my brothers or my sister would have the same mitochondrial on the bottom as I do, but the DNA would be different. So that's what we were checking. If the mitochondrial DNA was correct, bingo, he's more or less he was the father. Well, guess what? It wasn't. Now I'm bringing that up because what they did on this case is they got a little piece of DNA. Now, this guy, Kohlberger, yeah, okay, that's the top part. The bottom part, can you, all right, but, okay. So the bottom part of that would be the mitochondrial. So thank you, Anthony. That was good. I'm glad you had that in your repertoire. So what happened is, what I think they did, and we're going to get into this a little later, but what I think they did was they took a little piece of DNA that they got. Now, keep in mind, this guy used gloves, but how do I know when they were following him, he was actually using the gloves while he was driving, going into the store. I think he was a little paranoid, or maybe he felt he was being followed. Whoever followed him did a phenomenal job, because they followed him for 4 or 5 days. What I think happened is they found out, all right. Very good, Anthony. You're great. That's why I hired you. All right, put it away. So what I think they did, and this is we're gonna get into the defense of this case. What I think happened is they got a video of a white car. I think it was a Hyundai or a Japanese car, a nice car, and they finally traced it to a different state. I think the car's registered in Pennsylvania, his family. So what I think they did was get some DNA from the family members that was public. When you get arrested, they take your DNA, or if you voluntarily, like you do a parental test, there's certain ways that you legally you have DNA in there. But what happened was, I think they put together the mitochondrial and the DNA, and that's how they and not that's how they got him. I think that plus the other things. Now, what I think happened is he was stalking them. Now, what they did is they pinged his phone. Pinging is a GPS monitoring of electronic device. In this case, his phone. And if you have a GPS in your cars, it's the same thing. And there's a pattern, a footprint that he was in the area of the school. Now, remember, he was a PhD major in criminology. He was getting a doctorate in criminology, and he was a professor, an associate professor in one of the colleges, only 10 miles away. So him being in the area is not unlikely, because he's, his bar's there. It's a college town. So I could see where the defense might say, well, he was around there. Yeah, sure, he was around. That doesn't prove anything. So you have a lot of circumstantial evidence. But what I think happened is, my opinion, is that he might have seen the two girls that were killed were very, very pretty, blonde, very stand out. They stand out in the crowd. And the other girl's attractive with her boyfriend. So I believe that he might have noticed them in one of the bars or in passing, and he decided to stalk them. In my opinion, if he gets convicted, it's first-degree murder because he was premeditated. Okay, he didn't do this on the spur of the moment, which is second degree. Now, I believe that they have, again, circumstantial proof that he followed them by the cell phone pings. And we all know that in these college towns, everybody's partying and everybody's friendly, and especially in Idaho, where it's not a high crime area. They left the door open. He got in the house with no problem, and I think that's how he conducted himself, and he used a knife because the knife is silent. A knife is silent. The problem with a knife is very bloody. But now, what I'm worrying about is what is his motive. They haven't decided what his motive is. That's going to come out. That's going to come out hopefully in the near future. The other thing is they don't have the weapon. Now, I think, given what they have enough to. They got an indictment. They got a warrant for him. So, and he pled not guilty. And I understand that some of the articles I read about him, he was a loner. He was a little. You got to remember when someone gets arrested, it's two things people say. Oh, he was a nice guy. I can't believe he did it. Or, oh, you know what? He was a strange guy. He was a little, And they said that he was for the students, he was a tough. He had a high standard. You got to really do good. He gave everybody A's. Wasn't his MO. He was a tough grader, and so he started to act a little strange after this. And I think that his mind was thinking about. I mean, he killed 4 people. What went through his mind? We will never. I don't know if we'll ever find out. But I'm sure he had many different thoughts, and I would think that if he had any kind of human emotion, he'd feel some sort of empathy for these people. But if he's a sociopath, I don't think so. So, by the way, anybody would like to I love comments. I love people. By the way, if anything I say is wrong or not verified, I want to hear about it. I'm not the best. I'm not the worst. I'm not the smartest. I'm not the dumbest. But we all make mistakes, and sometimes I rely on some of the information that I obtain, which could be not conjecture. Could be not true. So I know we have we have Facebook friends, and we have YouTube. We're on YouTube. We're on, Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong. We're on Rumble, Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook. Anything I missed? I guess I got it all. Okay, now, what I think is going to happen is he's going to have a defense. Now, some of these people some of these sociopaths, they like the publicity from the press. They like all this being in the limelight. And it's a terrible thing because if this guy is convicted, he's going to jail for life. And I don't know if Idaho is a capital punishment state. I don't know if they have. If anybody knows, please, Michael Spain, you were on the job. Let me know if it's a capital punishment state. But I think it's worse than staying in jail for the rest of your life. I think it's worse. Might as well get killed and get it over with, And I just think that we have a case that's going to be in the newspapers for the next probably 6 months, maybe more, because you're going to have motions. You're going to have motions from the defense. You're going to have motions from the prosecution. You're going to have witnesses pop up. Now, I believe the lawyer hired a private investigator. That's standard in these kind of criminal cases. Now, what is a private investigator going to do that's going to help the defense? I'll tell you, because I've done it. They will try to discredit the witnesses, discredit the DNA, discredit any kind of evidence or any witness statements that come up. Now you say, how did it discredit? Well, for example, let's say a witness said, I saw him in the bar with the girls. Okay. Then the investigator could go to the bar and say, listen, this guy paid with a credit card. Yeah. Okay, can I have his receipt? Or if you don't give it, I'll get a subpoena. So he gives him a receipt, and he sees that the guy had 7 drinks on the receipt. So wait a minute, you know what? I think this guy was impaired. I don't think he's a good witness. So that's one of the things that an investigator would do for the lawyer. Now, maybe he wasn't impaired. Maybe he had 7 drinks over a period of time and he was sober. Well, maybe sober. I don't know about that. But sober enough that he could see what he saw. Okay. Then, as far as the DNA goes, what the lawyer will do is bring in an expert, a DNA expert, and try to take apart how they developed his DNA. And we're going to take a break. Now, Anthony, would you take one of our sponsors? Because I want to take a little break. I have my call. Bogatti's, you want egg noodles? Oh my God, they're the best. They're legendary. They make right on the premises. They have frozen and they have fresh. They also have a lot of imported Italian goods. They are on 187th Street, right off Arthur Avenue, between Arthur and Belmont Avenue, in the heart of Little Italy. Everybody knows Bogatti's. And matter of fact, I grew up in a neighborhood, and the restaurants in that area used their raviolis in the restaurant because of the quality. And okay, that's it for Bogatti. You got enough publicity here tonight. So now, in the near future, we're going to be talking about other cases that I worked on. And why I'm going to talk about, well, number one, I did them, and I'm proud of what I did. And I can really talk about them because I know, for example, and we'll talk about it in the future. Marilyn Monroe allegedly gave John F. Kennedy a Rolex watch engraved. I had to find the people that could verify that. All right, that's another story. Then I worked on the soccer mom. That Law and Order SVU did 3 episodes on that one case. Okay, and I was on the case, and I'm going to talk that I could talk a whole hour, 2 hours on that alone. There's so many moving parts on that case. It's unbelievable. And other cases, Anthony Quinn divorce case, 2 of them. I worked on both of them. God bless him. I love the guy as an actor, but I got hired by the family. I got to do what I got to do. And then we have other cases that were the Rico case in Staten Island with the evil twins. That alone I could speak 4 hours on. We have a lot of good stuff, but what I want to do is take a case that's now, that's current, and explore it like we're doing tonight. And by the way, anybody have any questions, please chime in. I like questions. I like comments because then I could expound on it. Okay. Okay. Motive. This is very important when they prosecute a case. What is the motive? Now, everybody who's read the newspapers or seen these television newspapers, this is all over the news. It's all over. No one said what his motive is. My guess, and I've been pretty good so far with this case. My guess is that he was fixated on these women, and a couple that was in a different room. He said, "Hey, I don't mean to be flippant, but I'm sure he who knows what went on in his mind. He probably said, let me kill these 2 because they could be potential witnesses." But nobody in the building, there was other people living in this house, heard it because he was pretty good. It was quiet. And again, he didn't break in. He walked in. The door was open. And again and again and again, what is the motive? Did he know these people? It's a college town. They have bars, restaurants. Who knows? Maybe he tried to pick one of the girls up and they turned him down. Maybe he hasn't had a girlfriend for many years. Maybe he's so wound up with his PhD. I mean, that's a serious thing. That he didn't socialize with people. And from what I read about him, some of the people have made mention that he wasn't that nice of a guy or whatever. But then again, he was a professor, an assistant professor. So you're going to have people that are going to be somewhat prejudiced against him. A student that is going to be prejudiced, especially if they didn't get an A and they got a B or a C when they thought they were going to get an A. But I also think that he was a strange dude. He was a strange man, and only a strange man would do something like this. Okay. I would love to be on the ground working on this, but I'm not law enforcement anymore. I'm private. I do mostly financial investigation. Um, uh, you know, when people are caught, they never admit it. They say, oh, I'm not guilty. I'm not guilty. It takes a while. It might take a while. He might actually say he's guilty, but I seriously doubt that. His lawyer, his what do you call his Harvard private investigator, his experts, they're going to tell him, "Oh no, you got a good case. You're going to win this case." What are going to say? You're going to lose the case. They're going to tell him you're going to win the case, or they try to mitigate the sentencing. They might want to find a loophole, or they might want to find, for example, he might have been injured. He might have had some brain injury in the past, and because of that, they could claim that he was temporarily insane, or some other scientific or non-scientific defense. Because I've worked on a number of cases where the client was, I guess, guilty. They found guilty. What they wanted you to do is find out where the rat is. Now, I've worked on a couple organized crime cases, and the client was the target. Says, "Listen, I think they got a rat." Now, I have to be careful. An investigator has to be careful, because what if you find the rat, you find the informant, and they kill him or her? In some cases, it's a her. Are you complicit? Are you a party before the action? I mean, you got to think about it. I know a female private eye who got in trouble a few years ago. She gave some information to a client, and the client, I think, killed the girl, the person, and she didn't get charged, but she got sued and she got in a lot of trouble, and it was a messy thing. So a private investigator has to be careful. Okay. And I've been very aggressive on cases, and I think everybody knows that I had a problem with a case in Brooklyn because I was very aggressive. And though I didn't break the law, I got jammed up. In law enforcement, you get in trouble, you get jammed up. When a guy is a perpetrator, he gets convicted. So what happened was, and I'm going to go into in the future case, because again, that's another hour just on that alone, because there's a lot of moving parts. And keep in mind that in a lot of these investigations and a lot of these cases, it's not clear. When you get in the press and what you get, there's a lot of stuff. Hey, Wildfire, how are you? Wildfire worked for me many years ago. Oh, Elizabeth Graybill, I love watching you. I love watching you too. You're very cute. I'm allowed to flirt, right? I don't care what happened, Vinny. You're innocent. All right. Well, I have an appeal going based on some of the stuff that was happening, but we're not going to talk. Again, I'm just giving everybody a broad idea of what I'm going to be doing on the show. I love what I do. I love the people that chime in and I don't know if people remember, but I was on CNN a lot. I was on Headline News. They had a thing called the Lion's Den. I guess I was one of the lions. And Jan Velez Mitchell show. I loved it. I was on it at least maybe once a week, twice a week. And what she liked about me is that I was very blunt. you had these lawyers and psychologists, and they would say, well, this and that, and they're talking about all these different variants of the case. And I would come in. She would go, I waited. So she clued me in. She said, I want to hear from Vinny Parco, famed private eye, boom. And then I hit him. And I said, wait a minute. The guy was arrested 7 times. His kid was killed while they were asleep, whatever. He didn't kill the kid. The kid was killed in retribution. And they said, what do you mean? He was a rat. He got arrested 7 times, never went to jail. He ratted everybody out. And you know what? All the panelists, they gave that look like, maybe you're right about that. Because he was working at night. He had a babysitter. And the kid was taken from the crib. Well, not a crib. The kid was like 2 years old. And they had no idea who. And then his record came out that he was arrested 7 times, never convicted. And it was just a logical conclusion on my part that he was a rat. And Jean Pirro, the judge Jean Pirro, was on the panel. Hey, she goes, Vinny's right. And then she went on and talked about how they used informants in the DA's office, et cetera, et cetera. So I enjoyed going on those shows, and I enjoyed giving my expertise. Now, I wasn't always correct, but I was pretty close. I'll give you an example. One time they had a show about a body that was found in the middle of a field. And everybody had all kinds of ideas how it happened and this and that. And then she said, and Vinny, why don't you say what you got? I said, wait a minute. He was found in a field. There was no blood pooled around the body. He was killed somewhere else. Hey, Anthony, how are you? He was killed somewhere else. I said, they should check the garages, the area around there, houses, backyards, garages, to see if he was killed somewhere else. And that would be the crime scene. And then you could follow up on that and then find out who killed him, or at least try to find out who killed him. So these are the things I like talking about. This is what I talked about on these shows. And one of the shows that I was on a few times, and it really bothered me, it was the Casey Anthony case. Well, after 30 days, they found her kids. She was charged only with 2 misdemeanors, okay? She neglected the child for 1 month. 1 month. Didn't call anybody. Didn't call the police. Didn't call anybody for 1 month. That is neglect by itself, okay? Now, I understand there's a case going on where her father or father-in-law is suing her for defamation. Part of her defense, she said that the father-in-law, or either not defense during the trial, I think she said it in the press, that the father or the stepfather, the father-in-law, whoever he is, killed the baby or took the baby. So he's suing her because she has no proof of that. Okay. Now, how she got acquitted is beyond me. Now, first of all, she was in Florida. Okay. Florida is kind of strange. Got some strange people there. Look at the Trevin Martin case where the guy killed this 17-year-old black kid. He got away. But they had a law there called Stand Your Ground or something like that. But he was a punk. He got punched by this kid. 17-year-old kid knocked on his ass. And he took that as a threat and he shot him. Now, if he was a man, he would have got up and put his hands up and would have fought the kid, but he couldn't fight. He was a punk. The worst thing to have is a punk with a gun, because they're going to use it because they can't use their hands. They can't do anything else. All right, let's take a break. We got another great sponsor, and Anthony Patsy's. Now, I got one of their shirts. Okay. I ate there yesterday, by the way. I took a picture. Anthony, can you put a picture of the shrimp scampi that I sent you? I guess not. Okay. Trust me, it was excellent. It says pizzeria, but it's a real restaurant. The food there is unbelievable. They have a shrimp fra diavolo with all kinds of seafood. It's a linguine with all kinds of seafood, a little hot. I don't like sauce too hot, but the sauce is unbelievable. And then they have something that nobody has. Everybody knows what a Philly cheesesteak is, right? They have a Philly cheesesteak egg roll. They actually made an egg roll with a Philly cheese. No one, I never had it before. Never. It is awesome. It's an appetizer, but it's a heavy appetizer. Okay, you could take Patsy's off. Um, so I enjoy talking about these. Now, unfortunately, I mean, I don't enjoy what happened. I don't enjoy the crime that's committed. I don't enjoy what they did. But what I enjoy is trying to find and catch these people. And though I'm not in law enforcement, if I could contribute in any way, if I can help in any way, even a theory, even a good theory, a theory that I'll give you an example. One of the shows I was on, the Lion's Den, there was a guy. Some of these cases were older; they weren't current at the time, but they wanted to talk about it. Some guy was killing people. He was I guess he was a serial killer. He killed about 4 or 5 people. That's a serial killer. Okay. And here's what happened. He killed them, and he was all over the country. And they had a police captain on there, and he gave his idea, blah blah blah, and I gave, So one of the things that I found out in the discussion was that the credit cards of these individuals were stolen. So I said to the panel, I said, why don't they check the usage of these credit cards? I mean, the person's dead. Their credit card is missing. If this guy was traveling around the country, how did he pay for his airfare? He probably used the credit card. And if you could track the credit card usage, you might be able to track him. And people again like, oh yeah, how come we didn't think of that? Now again, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I think out of the box, and that's my stock and trade. I think out of the box, and I am old school, and I use modern technology too. I did the Elton John case. I used DNA technology to try to find out. I've used GPS technology. I've had my staff work on computer, social media, things like that. I don't know how to do social media. I hate it. So I got Anthony does it for me. My son does it for me. But I'm the type of guy that will go door to door. Now, if I was working on this Idaho case, I'm positive the detectives in that town. Now, one of the things that I didn't like is the criticism of the Idaho, of the Moscow. It's called Moscow, Idaho, the Moscow police. Now, it's a small town. They have a small police department. They don't have the experience of like a New York City or Chicago or LA. They don't have that kind of experience. Now, one thing we all know is that police officers, when they get on the job, they get training. And what they do is they send them to these schools. They'll send them, like, for example, when I'm interviewing a new detective, a guy who just retired from the police department, I look at his resume, and there's certain things I see. I see he went to the defensive driving school. He went to the FBI Academy for a fingerprint analysis. He did all these things. That's great. Most officers volunteer for that because they want to learn, but they don't have the practical experience. That's the problem. Now, I'm a door knocker. I go and knock on doors and talk to neighbors. Why? Because neighbors see things that you don't see on DNA, things you don't see on a computer, things you don't see on a telephone log. They notice things. They see things. They said, I saw this. Yeah, that guy. I saw him do something strange with it. What was it? Well, he did whatever he did. It was strange. So now you put it in the back of your mind, or you put it on your notes. Just say, wait a minute. This guy did this strange thing. How is it related to the case at hand? And then you push it together. And you say, oh, wait a minute. Maybe we got something there. And the investigator has to follow up on that. Now, a lot of times on murder, on any kind of case, murder, rape, whatever, you see this on TV. They send 35 cops out knocking on doors, talking to people. The problem with that is, how do you know every one of those cops knows his job? How do you know every one of them is a good interrogator? How do you know if they know how to I had a case, which we're going to talk about in the future, in Staten Island, a RICO case. My client was charged with racketeering, influence, corrupt organization. Now, he's a mechanic, okay? A car mechanic. They claim that he kept the cars too long. That's stolen car. He claimed that there was a scratch on the car. That's a malicious mischief. They claim that he didn't do the water pump. All these things. But I had to go interview the 17 people that were in the grand jury. They testified. Now, here's what I found out. And this is where the district attorney in Staten Island district attorney at the time was, I think, Murphy. I think he's dead by now, but he got out of there. What happened was they got them all together in front of before they went to grand jury and gave them a pep talk. Then that one correction, your case is never just easy. That's true. You're a very wise man, and you are straight to the point. Well, I'm a straight guy. No, yeah. Hey, Eddie Earl, how are you, Mr. Howard Beach? You know, I lived in Howard Beach for 5 years. I never met you. Well, now I know you from. So, as I was saying, I went to see 17 witnesses. Now, the investigator before me, would knock on the door and say, "Hi, I'm an investigator for blah blah blah. I don't want to talk to you." And they closed the door in his face. So they hired me, and they hired me because they knew I was aggressive. And I told them, I said, first of all, I'm not afraid of the DA. I'm not afraid of the cops. I'm going to go do what I have to do legally. So I went to these people's homes. Now, during in all these criminal cases, you have motions, you have all kinds of things. One of the motions is my client's lawyer was a pretty good lawyer. He said, we want to inspect the cars. Now, remember, this is a car case. They claim they didn't fix the water pump, they didn't fix the brake, whatever it is. Okay. So what I did was I went to each house, and when I knocked on the door, they said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Look, I have a letter from the judge saying I can look at the car." "I don't want to talk to you." I said, "Wait a minute. If you don't talk to me, you're obstructing justice. Both sides have the right to interview witnesses." And they let me in. And yeah, I'll have make me an espresso. And I was having espresso, tea, whatever. And I got written statements from them, and I got verbal statements, which I put on tape, which was legal. Now, I'll tell you why they spoke to me. Because they were told by the district attorney, and this is stupidity, they told them that if they testify in the grand jury, the case is over. But it wasn't. It's the beginning of a case. So now, I hope I don't know if anybody from Staten Island, but Staten Island people are not the brightest bulbs in the chandelier. Okay, so these people, when I told them that, they called the DA the next day screaming at him. Why? You're right. I do have the gift of gab. So what happened was, they called the DA and said, why's this investigator here talking about this case when you said it was over? So out of the 17 witnesses, I got 14 of them to talk to me. 3 of them I couldn't get; they were gone. And some of them gave me exculpatory information. Matter of fact, most of them did, because this was a scam. I'll give you an example. One of the women claimed that they didn't fix her brakes on her car. Now, she had a 1976 Jaguar. If anybody knows cars, the 76, 77, those Jaguars were horrible mechanically. So my client charged, I think, $400 for the brakes. She didn't have the money. So she claimed that she couldn't pay. She made a complaint to the district attorney's office that the guy charged her for and didn't do a good job. Now, if you ever look at the car, when you look at you could see the brake linings in the wheel, in the wheel. So the motor vehicle department sent an honest inspector to her house. Said, "I want to look at the car." He drove the car. Said the brakes are fine. There's nothing wrong with the brakes. You know what she told him? I just said that so I didn't want to pay the bill. Now, he wrote on the incident report what she said. The district attorney redacted that and just put in the complaint. That tells you how crooked they were. They still are. Matter of fact, the DA on this case became a judge. That's how bad the system is. Okay. So all these people got like agita from this case. And they didn't like the fact that it was going to go to trial and they're going to have to testify. Now, here's the other thing the DA did. And keep this in mind for other cases too. They told the people when they gathered, they're not supposed to do that. They gathered all the people. They told them that they have a possible class action lawsuit to sue the mechanic. That's wrong. They're not supposed to do that. I can't tell you right off the top of my head, unless someone knows what section of law that is. I can't think of it, but it's illegal. It's not, but they can get away with it. They can get away with it. They also forfeited my client's building. My client had built a building in Staten Island, and when he built the building, listen to this. They paid $150,000 for the property on a main street, and they built the building. They built it. These guys were one was an accountant who was a mechanic, and the other brother was a lawyer, and both of them were very handy. They were cars, a truck, anything. So they built the building. So when they got arrested, they got arrested in the building. They were also charged with avoiding tax on the building. They said, oh, they paid $150 because that's a public record what they paid for it, and they sold it for $500,000. So there's a $350,000 profit. No, they didn't consider the building that they were arrested in. Someone had to build it, and that's a value. This is the kind of stuff that we had to deal with. Now, on top of all this, I was told, and Staten Island, everybody knows everybody talks to each other, that they were going to arrest me because I was breaking eggshells. Okay, I'm going to just say that. I was breaking a lot of omelets in Staten Island. So what happened is, I go to see this crooked mechanic. I'm interviewing him, and he calls. I'm going to call the DA. I said, call him up. Tell him I said hello. He called the DA. The DA called the precinct and says, go arrest this guy. So they arrested me for, listen to this. This is so funny. Intimidating a witness in the 4th degree and trespass. It's a public garage, but I was trespassing. And intimidating a witness. Now, intimidating a witness in the 4th degree is really a violation. Not even a crime; it's a violation. But they arrested me, so I went in. I said, all right. So I'm getting fingerprinted, and the cop goes to me, "Why are you so happy? Why are you so jovial about this whole thing? I never met anybody like you." I said, "Detective, I get paid by the hour. I'm going to make more money in jail tonight than you make in a month." He said, "Oh my God!" He said, "I'm retiring in 6 months, 14 days, 22 hours." I mean, he had it down to the second. Can I get a job? He said, "No, I don't think so. I don't think so." But they treated me. They treated me pretty decently. I mean, I had to spend a night in jail, which I didn't sleep. You don't sleep in jail, and I actually made fun. I actually had fun in jail. Believe it or not, I had fun because I knew I was making money there, so I didn't care. And then we went on to trial. I wanted to go to trial, but we hired. Now here's another problem that sometimes you have. What kind of lawyer do you hire? Okay. The lawyer hey Lori, how are you, baby? She's one of my best investors. She worked on some serious cases for me. She's pretty good. She's good. She's unassuming. Nobody knows she's an investigator. My family, my in-laws said, "No, you got to hire this guy. He's dead now. I could talk." Michael Warshaw, very, very prominent criminal attorney, but he's a racketeer lawyer. So I had this misdemeanor bullshit case, and we wanted to go to trial on it. We wanted to get the DA on the stand because he told the cops to arrest me. No. We went back and forth to court. And he wound up making a deal with the DA to dismiss the case. We don't want the case dismissed, but you know what? After a while, you just get tired. You say, you know what? Let's call it quits. And the DA did that to get me off the case. Now, one of the things that happened was they had to hire other investigators. And I don't want to brag, but they had to hire like 2 or 3 to take my place because I'm all over the place. I'm all over. I'm talking to everybody. Now, this is a prelude because this is another case that the Staten Island Advance. I don't know if it's a little local shit paper. Hope they don't sue me for defamation. I hope they do. When I worked for the medical board, I also did illegal practice, criminal investigations of doctors, the illegal doctors. And then we had an illegal doctor in Staten Island that was selling this Wonder. I call it Wonder Bread. I don't mean Wonder Bread, the real Wonder Bread. It was some sort of super bread that if you ate it, you're going to lose weight, cure cancer. It cures snake bites. It cures arthritis. It cures everything. So Staten Island Advance wrote a whole big article about, made it sound good. So people were buying this crap. And then we had to investigate. So Staten Island Advance called my clients, because they were twins, the evil twins. And, what's funny about it is I'm going to interview people, the 17 witnesses. Oh, you work for the evil twins. like I'm the devil incarnate, Oh! So I had to use my charm and my let them know, no, we're working on a case. We're entitled to a defense and this, that, and the other. And fortunately, I did get to their brains to let them know that they got screwed. They got screwed. Now, here's the other problem. My clients documented every mechanical thing they did. Unbelievable what they did. The guy was an accountant. He was anal. I mean, literally, tell me, as a client, he was anal. Okay. He would put all his receipts in order, like military, and he would clip, listen to this, he would clip, let's say a water pump. So he has to replace the water pump. He orders a water pump from an auto parts place. They deliver. And when they deliver, he gives them a post-dated check for 2 weeks. If the part works and there's no problem with it, he tells them deposit the check. Okay. And the receipt gets clipped to the work order and a picture. He takes pictures of all this. So he had all this. Now, when the police, it's funny, when the police did a search warrant, the search warrant was, I think, 26 pages long. I mean, they put everything in there. My clients had a Corvette in there that belonged to a guy who worked for the post office. I'm not going to talk about going postal, but the guy was a strange guy. They claimed that he didn't pick up the car. Now they put $6,000 of their own money into this beautiful, gorgeous Corvette. I think it was a '76 Corvette convertible. So when they searched, they took the car. And as evidence. And so we had to find out about this guy. So I had one of my investigators, excellent. She could have been a con artist. She called the guy up, found out his insurance company, and she found out that he was in a nursing home for 2 weeks under the care of a doctor. He was in a psych. He was manic depressant. He was taking Haladan and a couple other things. Okay, we by mentioning that, we broke the HIPAA law, but that's 20 years ago, so we're not going to get charged with that. So what happened was the client said, do not call this guy anymore. Now, one of the things he told me, and this is another trick of investigators, is look for the little thing. He said he loves Italians. What do you mean? His name is Stapleton. He's a waspy guy, American, Irish American. Viva, how are you? I'm supposed to be in Waikiki. Yeah, I'm in Waikiki, White Plains, Waikiki. That's where I am. So, so I call them up. They just wanted to see. That's why they arrested you, because they know you were a celebrity and they're jackasses. That's true. So let me finish the story. No, I like when people make comments. So what happened was I called him up as Vito Palumbo from Allstate Insurance Company. I said, Mr. Stapleton. By the way, it's a different. I changed the name. It was close, but no cigar. So I call him up and I said, Stapleton, I got a letter from the police department. Your car was. Oh no, my car wasn't stolen. It's evidence in a big lawsuit. Oh, I said, oh really? I said, you're being charged, and this is true. You get charged a day. You charged for the insurance. I said, your car's still registered. Oh no. My brother-in-law sold it. The DA told me to sell it to a guy named Ron. Okay, I want to mention his name. So I went. He worked for a big bus company. I went to his house. He went absolutely berserk. He went berserk. He called the cops on me, but I was already gone. I didn't have a gun on me, but I had a beeper, a cell phone. He said, the guy had a gun, this, that, yeah. They freaked out. Now, my clients knew the bus company. There's only one big bus company in Staten Island. And they waited outside, and they videotaped the cops and the guy fixing the car. This is supposed to be evidence, okay? P.S., my clients wound up buying the car eventually. For evidence, but it never went to trial. What happened was all the stuff I did and all the motions and all this stuff, every so often the judge would knock some of the charges. Now, I got to tell you, this is really funny. They were charged with 238 counts on the indictment. 238. Now, remember, one guy was a lawyer, so 36 of them were against him, a co-defendant, and the other was against the other guy. I mean, they charged him for it's stupid. I mean, unbelievable thing. Like one guy said, I had a baby carriage in the trunk of the car. Oh, he stole a baby. I mean, it's just the kind of stuff they did. So, but I called him up as Vito Palumbo, whatever name I used at the time. He lied, and then he told me who the guy was. Now that cracked open the case because now it shows the illegal intent of the DA, and eventually they threw the whole case out. Eventually, but it took. My clients must have spent, no exaggeration, between. They had so many different lawyers on this. They would hire lawyers. I don't know if I should mention names. It's cool. Harold Farringer, one of the top lawyers in the country. He's dead now. He's a First Amendment lawyer. I mean, a really white shoe type of guy. I like working with him, even though I never really met him. We don't, on the phone, faxes and stuff like that. They hired him. They hired another big shot lawyer who took their money and didn't do anything. I don't know if he's still alive. I won't mention. He'll sue the shit out of my ass. Oh, by the way, we got one more sponsor. Because we're winding down now. Mark Turner, he is a Medicare insurance specialist. He's unbelievable. He's a hardworking guy. He works matter of fact, you see him, he doesn't have an ass. He works his ass off. He's really a good guy, and he's a sponsor. And he's really Medicare, Medicaid. I recommended some people to him. They were very happy with. He knows the little, again, talk about the little things. He knows the little tricks or the little things that that most people don't know, and he does it to your advantage. Okay. Oh, by the way, Anthony, let's put some. You have some of my books on the screen. You got some of my books there. All right. Okay. On Amazon, I hope people buy my books. They're not expensive. I think each one of them is like $10.95, something like that. I went to French cooking school when I was on the job, and I wrote a cookbook based on my cooking for my investigators while they were on surveillance. Because I don't listen. I'm the boss. I don't go on surveillance. And by the way, I'm not good on surveillance. I'm good for other stuff, but surveillance, I hate them because you got to wait in a car for 7 hours for 5 minutes worth of videotape. Investigations After Dark. My publisher told me, write something sexy. Well, this is such a sexy book that when you read it, you got to take a cold shower. No, it's about all these sex cases we had, divorces. One of the wives was a dominatrix. We had to go undercover to the dungeons. Rogue PI is about me and some of my high profile, which I talked about tonight. and I'll be talking about in more future. The Mafia Double Cross is my favorite book. That's the one that I sell the most of, and it's a fiction, but based on some of my experience working with and against the mob, and working. I don't know if I don't want to toot my horn, but I want to let you know that I got an award from the FBI in 1984. It's on my wall here. I helped them on a case with terrorists. And this is before terrorists was really big, like 9/11, stuff like that. And to be honest with you, what I did, I thought was very nonchalant type of thing, but they gave me an award, and I accepted. And I don't know if anybody knows any private eyes who ever got an award from the FBI. I'd like to know about it. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that. Now, I don't want to talk about the FBI because I heard that if you talk bad about them, they charge you as a right-wing conspiracy theorist, and I don't want to get charged with that. My experience with the FBI is the agents, the special agents, are very, very good. They know that they're good. The only thing is, and you can ask any New York City cop or any private eye, when you use an a retired FBI agent, and I'm not making a joke, but it's funny. They are not street smart. They are book smart, technical. They have the resources of unbelievable resources. But now a friend of mine, I hope he's listening, John Lito, he used to work for me. He has his own company, very successful guy. He says that when I do a surveillance, I put two guys in a car. I put an NYPD detective and an FBI agent. I said, why? He said, the NYPD detective knows how to follow people. And the FBI agent knows how to write these glowing reports, these reports that are like a masterpiece. So that tells you the whole story about FBI agents on the street. We had my daughter's a private eye, and she runs my office. And now she has her own company because she has a license. I don't. I'm a financial investigator, which I'm allowed to do. And I'm very busy. I got a lot of cases, estate cases. I got cases where people steal money out of the estate, and I got to track the money down. And I got to, that's what we do. And I like that. It's clean, But we had a Secret Service in our office. We worked with them on a case. Do you know they were in our office, I don't know, like for 2 months to arrest this guy. My daughter says to them, listen, we know it. We deliver credit reports to them. Why don't you let us follow us? We give them and then no, we want to arrest them in your office. Okay. So one day my daughter comes in, and in front of the door, we were in the Corinthian, beautiful office space on First Avenue, between First and Second Avenue, on 37th Street, beautiful building. And in front of the place was a car, a government car, and it said United States Secret Service, right in the front entrance. So my daughter goes to the supervisor and says, can I ask you something? How do you expect these guys to walk in here if you got U.S. Secret Service in front of the building? And the girl goes, oh, those feds. Well, who are you? You're the boss. So after that, they took my daughter's advice. My daughter's pretty sharp, I have to admit. And they arrested him. And then, but it was a white collar, really a white collar kind of case. I got 2 minutes left, 1 minute left. I want to thank everybody for watching the show. Please subscribe. Tell your friends about the show. Next week, I think I'm going to talk about the soccer mom, Anna Christina. I might have her on the show too, if she's available. And she already said she would be. Very interesting case. I like to use the expression, she got jammed up. It was a very interesting case, and that's gonna take the whole hour to talk about that. Three episodes of Special Victims Unit. What does that tell you? As we say on Arthur Avenue, sempre noi, always with us. Good night, everybody.